All right, here we go. Welcome into H2H week number 12. We got Tasos and myself here, the show in which we battle it out each and every week with our NFL plays. Whoever comes out on top gets a win for that week. Tasos, you are, I guess, technically on fire now. You did get a win. There hasn't been that many of those for you this season. 3-7. How you doing?
Doing good. I told you in the last video we needed the bye week. We made the adjustments. You still got close. You almost got away with another win. Thank God AJ Brown didn't catch one more ball. We got very lucky, or that the Patriots didn't score again, because both those picks that you lost were very close.
Yeah, it was a sweaty week for both sides, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I almost had 4-0, but I had Bengals money line, almost a 4-0 sweep. So no matter what way you shake it, was a sweaty week, but it was good to get a win. Only 4 games back, so a lot of football to go. Still looking pretty good, the preseason numbers. So I'm still alive. I have life.
Yeah, I will say 3-7 compared to 8-2 is like drastically different.
Drastic.
You know what I mean? Like drastically. So it's almost like that was a must-win for you last week. So you know what? I'll clap it up. This is not one of those jinxing. I'm honestly telling you that was a big win, and honestly, you had a really good week. You demolished NFL last week in your videos, right?
Yeah, I went on the NFL Oracle. I shouted it out in last week's video, and I hope people who are listening, they went and saw that one, because went 12-2 on the single bets, 3-0 on teasers, 1-2 on parlays, but we did hit a plus 289 parlay. So overall, I don't have the unit numbers in front of me, but it was definitely over 12 units profit on the show, which is crazy. My record I didn't even realize it until we did. I texted you and Trey the recap. I didn't realize I'm 66-38-3 on single bets this year NFL. That's absurd.
That's absurd.
And then here on the show,
absurd.
I'm 3-7.
Yeah. Well, I've had a very good NFL season, luckily, myself, too. So that's been the thing. And we've said that so many weeks, which is the fact that we have to keep saying it like broken record speaks to the plays on the show, because it's like last week, I think, 2-2 obviously isn't a winning week, but I was that close to coming in with a winning week. And then it would have been a 3-1 versus a 3-1, whoever had the better unit plays, you know what I mean? So yeah, we've had some good battles here so far this year. Not exactly last year. Last year I was getting my you-know-what kicked in, but a little bit better this year. But yeah, guys, if you don't know, Tasos does multiple NFL shows here. The Oracle is his Sunday slate video, and he absolutely demolished last week. So keep an eye out for that. When does that usually come out?
Thursday at noon it's going to be out. So
okay,
we're going to see if we can't ride momentum and have another big week. It's a different week this week. We were talking about it a little bit before the show started.
Yeah,
the slate's a little weird this week, but we've been cashing all season long. So hopefully, we keep the hot streak going over there. But even on here too, I was looking back on some of our videos. I don't think you've had less than 2 wins on any single video. I think you've got at least 2 on every video.
Yeah, which, you know what? We'll take it for the show purposes, but
I had 2 weeks less than 2 wins, which are both
1 and 3.
1 and 3, but that's it. So we've basically on every video minus 2 of them, both of us have gone 2 wins or better.
Yeah, I like it.
Pretty good.
I like it. I'd rather you go 0-4 and let me, sweep the board.
Right.
But,
So here, I was giving us credit. I was giving both.
But now I gotta lock in. I gotta get my head in the blinders and lock into this show. Yes,
don't let me get hot.
So great.
Don't let me come back, because, like you said, 8-2 versus 3-7 is already different. But you know what's even worse? 4-7 versus 8-3. Big difference in those two as well.
It's a huge difference. I'll give you that. But all right, guys. If you don't know how this show works, it is an NFL pick show, but we let a wheel decide where we're going with these plays and what avenues we have to go down. So first off, we're going to jump into this one. We're going to see a wheel on your screen. It is going to have our names on it. Whoever this lands on will be going first. It is a snake draft after that. Tasos, do you want the reins here, or would you want the back-to-back for the second pick and then first in round 2? What are you thinking?
I'm never scared. I will take whatever the wheels give me. I don't mind going first. Like I said, weird slate, but we're going to tackle it.
All right, let's spin it.
Let's see what the wheel gods decide this week. I genuinely I'm going to get it. All right.
That's going to be right on you. Yep. All right, so you are starting us off there. So that is one wheel spin. Now we jump into the category wheel spin, which, again, you'll see another wheel on your screen. This is the bet categories that we were talking about. We have player prop on there. I think we have player prop twice, spread twice, money line twice, total twice. Then we have Thursday Night Football, a single square, a plus money play, a single square, and then newly added last week, we both hit on this one,
Yeah.
a touchdown score. So that's a nice little add in to the wheel. And as always, guys, keep letting us know if there's any other plays that you guys, or I guess slices for this wheel that you guys want us to add in, because we're always looking to expand this. And as the season goes on, we want it to get even better and better. So let's go ahead and spin it. You are up first. You got your eye on anything?
Ev, I don't want to sound cliche, but I'll go with the line. I go with a lot. The world's my oyster. I don't really have a preference. Whatever the wheel gives me, I'm ready for it.
All right, let's spin it.
On a serious note, I don't have a lot of touchdown scores, so I'm hoping we don't get that.
What is this gonna?
Money line.
All right, sitting right at money
line.
Okay,
that's an interesting one.
And by the way, we now remove that one slice from the wheel once it's there, so there's only one money line left.
So I actually am really happy I went first here, because this is a weird week where you basically there's only like 2 games or 3 games where it's like even worth it to bet a favorite. And then otherwise you got to bet a long shot underdog. I'm going to go ahead here and this is a tough one, but you know what? I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with an underdog here. Which I wasn't going to do, but you know what? I really do like this spot. Okay. I'm going to go. All right. Yeah, we'll go for it. I'm going 49ers money line here, plus 120 on the road in Lambeau. Warm weather team traveling to the cold. I know, not a great. As an owner of the Packers, I know what can happen here in Lambeau, but I think this Packers team, my Packers, have some problems. I mean, I don't know if you watched that Bears game last week.
Yeah,
they won. But it was a miracle they won, and that Bears team's not very good. And the fact they struggled as much as they did in that game, Jordan Love has been throwing a lot of interceptions. I have questions. I have a lot of questions with the Packers right now. The Niners, too. I mean, they're coming off a really bad loss to the Seahawks last week, but it is one of those situations where this game is so much more important for the 49ers than it is for the Packers. Like, the Packers are sitting right now, I believe they're 7-2 or 7-3. They need to win, absolutely, but they're not 7-3. But they're like, if they lose, they're okay. The Niners sitting at 5-5, they're in a division where Seattle's solid, the Cardinals are solid, the Rams are solid. So like they need this win badly. Like this is especially for tiebreaker purposes. So this is a game that means so much more. And the Niners are getting healthier. I mean, Christian McCaffrey hasn't had a huge impact just yet, but he's just getting back after missing the entire season so far. He just got back, last week? So I think he needs a little bit more time. They're starting to get some guys back from injury. So I still think the Niners, look, they're not going to be what they were last year. I think they're having kind of a year from hell kind of thing where they have so many injuries. They're not going to be what they were last year, but I still think this is a solid team. I still think this is a playoff caliber team. And the Niners historically have owned the Packers. It's kind of the trend. The last time they played, the Niners last year beat them on January 20th, 24-21. And so the Niners, and also, by the way, insights provided by Outlier, the Niners.
Guys, shout out to the exclusive sponsor of H2H, Outlier, our favorite research tool out there. In fact, instead of telling you about it, let me show you a little something. Tasos mentioned, shout out Outlier for the insights, right? It's never been easier to get insights on your plays. In fact, they have a tab for insights right here where you can go through and look at trending plays in the market. But even if you are in a specific game, right? Like Tasos looking at the Niners on the money line. We can find that game. All right, let's go ahead and look at it. One, you can see how much they've been covering that number or, doing what you're wanting them to do, like money line and that type of thing. But right here, this button will pull up an insight and you can see 49ers 7-2, 77.8% in their last 9 games on the road. You can click it and it'll show you all of the examples. And down here, you can reference some team stats in terms of offense versus defense or vice versa. We also have strength of schedule, team records, whether in the division, the conference, home, away, and then also the percentages in terms of what people are playing in the market. It is an amazing tool, guys. If you have not tried Outlier yet, no better time to do so now. Link in the description. You're going to get a week-long trial. After that, it is an absolute steal of a product as well. $19.99 per month if you pay monthly, right? You can pay in bulk as well. So go get that free trial with the link in the description. Shout out to Outlier.
The Niners are 7-2, 77.8% hit rate in their last 9 games on the road. So this is a team that travels well. They've got a really good history against the Green Bay Packers. They've owned the Packers throughout most of the last 10 years. So I'm going to go Niners here for plus money too. This Niners team is so talented to be plus money on the road. Like I said, this Packers team, I'm not sold on them right now.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I would say this, and this is kind of going to give you a little like look into where my head would be at this game. I'm not going to lie, I did consider that too in my money lines. If these odds were flipped, I probably would even look at Packers. You know what I mean? So that's how close it is in this line, but I think there's a lot of value on the plus money team in this spot. And you kind of did hit it on the head with like the fact that the 49ers are in such a tough division. Like you look around, the fact that the Cardinals are 6-4, the Rams 5-5, Seahawks 5-5, 49ers 5-5, like that is by far and away the tightest for all four teams in the division in the league. So I do think that they know how important that is. So I don't mind it, and I like that you're getting the plus money there. If I am being honest, I will say in terms of what separates these teams and whatnot, I probably would have just looked at the Packers if they were the plus money. So it's not like I'm in love with the 49ers. I love getting the 49ers at plus money. So I'm in on your side there. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, and I get it, and and not even just the division. I mean, we're talking, I think the Niners, they still have a shot to win their division, but just from a wild card standpoint, right? You have all four teams in this division could potentially win, make a playoff spot. Then you have the NFC North, we have the Vikings, the Lions, the Packers, like then you have the NFC East, we have the Eagles, the Commanders. The NFC is so loaded this year. You're going to have to win 10 games just to make the 7 seed realistically. So like they can't afford to lose the games like this, especially this game where you have a team where, Detroit seems to have the NFC North locked up. So the Niners and Packers are two teams vying for those wild card spots. This is a game with massive, massive playoff. It may not seem like that right now on the surface, but this is a game with massive playoff implications. And the Niners, for what it's worth, I know they've had their struggles, but overall, it's for the numbers show top 5 in passing yards, top 10 in rushing yards, second in yards per play, tied for 8th in scoring. I mean, 4th and 3rd down conversions, 4th and 1st down conversions. I mean, the numbers show this is still a solid team. The solid offensive line. They don't give up a ton of sacks. They've been turning the ball over a little bit more than they normally do, but overall, this is still a pretty solid team. And I think part of the reason why you're seeing the wins aren't coming, they're not very efficient in the red zone. They do leave a lot of points there, but Green Bay, 19th in red zone efficiency defensively, bottom half of the league, not great. The Packers are ranked 10th defensively, but you take a little closer look there, they're okay. I think they're an okay defense. I don't think this is a great defense. I think they're okay. And I think the Niners are good enough where they can go ahead and get the win here. And I think on the flip side, the Packers, offensively, they also have good numbers, but there's a lot of inconsistency right now with Green Bay, and they're turning the ball over a pretty healthy amount as well. So, tough spot, absolutely. But like I said, you're giving me the Niners with plus money. With McCaffrey back, with Kittle, with Debo, with Brock. I got to go ahead and take the Niners here.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Like I said, I am going in a different direction. So for my money line play, I'm looking at a favorite, and I have a couple that I really like. So I'm almost wondering maybe I get another shot at it if we get 2 money lines in this episode. But I am looking at the Eagles against the Rams. Eagles money line -145. This team is. What I will say to just start this, they are due at some point for like, a letdown spot or something like that. So I admit that. I don't know if it's going to come this week against the Rams. This Rams defense isn't all that great. The fact that the Rams were in the game with, like the Patriots were in the game with the Rams. Yes, they covered. Yes, they got it. Yes, you called that right and fade me. But this is not a good Rams defense. The offense even at times looks a little clunky. The Eagles now have a legit defense and a legit offense. The coaching's turning around. Like this team is looking very, very good. So yeah, I like the Eagles on the money line. The only sort of negative I think about is at some point they're due for a little bit of letdown. And the fact that they're only 2.5 point favorites, like kind of smells like a trap to some degree. You know what I mean? Like the way this team's been playing offensively and then going up against this Rams defense, I don't exactly see why they're not maybe 4.5, 5.5 favorites, but they are on the road. They are in LA. I get it. But yeah, on the money line, -145 right now, best odds, ESPN.
I was also considering that. That was definitely one of the picks I was leaning on. The only reason I didn't, honestly, was the value with -145. I figured I could find something a little bit better. But I am in the same boat as you were. Like this Eagles team on paper, they shouldn't lose this game. But I also agree with you where like you just feel it, right? Like they've been so good since the bye week. They keep winning. They're coming off a really big win against the Commanders, and it feels like
And they're getting
This
healthy.
happens
It's
a
like
lot in the NFL.
everything's perfect. They're getting
Yeah.
healthy. Everything's perfect. When things are perfect, something falls.
Well, typically, especially for a team like we see this happen every year with the NFL, where you have this team where they win a bunch of games, but it's like, they beat a bunch of cupcake teams, right? They had an easy schedule. You were waiting for them to beat that team that was like, okay, this is a good win, and they did it. They beat the Commanders, who have been one of the better teams in the league. However, I think Washington's also kind of trending in the wrong direction. So that game, yes, is a good win, but how good of a win is it? The Rams, though, I just don't know if they're going to be good enough. The line, I think, is where it's at because the market really overvalues their offense at times. Great offense, no doubt, but like you said, clunky at times. I do like the Eagles, though. I can't really say much against it. The only thing I would fear is if the Rams just get in a shootout, and then it's like it could come down to who has the ball last. You get Matt Stafford the ball in the fourth quarter, last drive. That's tough. So that's the one area where I'd be concerned. But overall, I don't hate the pick at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spot in which, like I said, it's like that hypothetical letdown spot is the biggest negative. But I will give credence to something you said about the schedule. They've played the second easiest schedule so far this season in terms of opponent's record against. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's obviously not all that tremendous. But some of these numbers, just like defensively, not even the Eagles offense, right? Defensively, last 3 games here, points per game, they're 4th, 1st in passing yards allowed, 5th in rushing, causing more turnovers than anyone else, and 2nd in terms of time of possession, whether you view that as an offensive or defensive stat. Like,
and another benefit to you, not to give you not to defend your own pick for you, but they're also coming off extended rest because they had the Thursday night game. So now you get a couple extra days to rest to prep for this one. So you also have that advantage as well.
True. There we go. So we have 2 money line plays there. You're going plus money. I'm going for what I would consider a little pricey, but again, like at least if I'm using my brain here, which I am, that still isn't too expensive for what I think this Eagles team is capable of. But now we're going to jump into the wheel for our second spin. You can see we are 1 less money line play now on there. Let's go ahead and spin this one.
What do you want? You always ask me, but what do you looking for
I like a player prop or a Thursday night play, but I don't think we're going to get that.
Stay.
Spread. Okay. All right. I don't know if
my
I'm
total
loving
tease.
the
I want it. I want my total tease. I'm 4-0 on this show.
You are. Yeah, you're just crushing those. All right. I have a decision to make here because I do have a couple spreads I like. A spread that I really do like, and I think I'm going to go with it. And it's plus money right now, actually. On, let's see, DraftKings for plus 102. I'm going to get it because that's the only plus spot here right now. Baltimore -3 against this Chargers team. Tasos, did you like that one?
Oh, I wanted the Hardball Bowl.
Yep. And talk about a spot to get the Eagles coming off of a grinded out rivalry game last week. Now you're in prime time. This screams bounce back spot for Baltimore, and the Chargers, like everybody is sucking their what now because the defense is so good and they're so good. That was their best offensive performance bar none this year, no questions asked, and it was against a Cincinnati defense that isn't all that good. And the whole thing that the Chargers are supposed to be good at is playing defense. They still let up 27 points. Now, I know Joe Burrow's phenomenal, but this Baltimore offense is just as good as that Cincinnati offense. I don't think the Chargers come in and score 30-plus points again. Baltimore's going to go off here.
Took my pick. That's literally my pick. I got clowned a little bit on Sunday because my Sunday Night Football picks video. I was all over the Bengals. I love the Bengals. I had their team total over, which did hit. Yeah. And they almost came back and won that game. I still, although I was wrong and my picks did lose, the Bengals, I had them spread and money line.
You had a big touchdown scorer in that, didn't you?
I had Quentin Johnson plus 260. Yeah. So I actually was profitable on Sunday. We actually were up units, but I was all over Bengals and obviously they didn't win. But
yep.
My sentiments held true. Everything I said came true, minus I thought the Bengals would be able to not give up 30-plus points. The Chargers defense, which everyone's been sucking their you-know-whats, they haven't played anybody all year long. And then they finally play a good offense last week. Guess what happens? They give up 27 points, 21 points unanswered in the second half until finally they went ahead and scored. But, the only reason they won that game was because the Bengals are so bad defensively, they couldn't get a single stop. The Chargers defense, I'm not saying it's not good. It's good. But they got a little exposed. And like you said, the Ravens coming off of a loss, an embarrassing loss, a game where they definitely should have won. They lost. That wasn't the Steelers won the game. I think that was more the Ravens lost it. Some really bad stuff in that game from them. Now you go on, you get to play the Chargers in prime time, the Harbaugh brothers head to head. And Jim, listen, I love Jim Harbaugh, but John is the more successful coach on the NFL level. I love the pick. I love the Ravens. I think it's a huge bounce back spot. That's a tough team to play for the Chargers. Tough team to play.
One thing that I'm looking at, too, that I didn't catch right away, I'm glad that I'm seeing this, is the fact that, so the Chargers, because I'm looking at, obviously, we look at that run offense. If that can get going for Baltimore, obviously Lamar and Zay, like, obviously they have a great offense overall. But King Henry, if he gets going, that's tough to beat. This is interesting. So the Chargers last 3 weeks here, 14th in terms of rushing yards allowed per game, which seems pretty good, right? But they've actually had the second fewest rush plays against them.
Yeah.
So that sort of like that speaks to me that though they are ranking pretty well in terms of rushing yards allowed per game, they're not getting run on all that much. So like their yards per carry, their run efficiency there defensively isn't all that great. So yeah, I kind of like this pick even more now that jumps out at me.
Well, no, and think about who they played. Like the Bengals, they were up, what was it, 21-6, 24-6 at halftime? The Bengals had to throw on the whole second half.
Yep.
The week before that, they played Tennessee. They dominated the entire game. So Tennessee
Cleveland,
had
New
to throw
Orleans,
on them.
Yeah.
So like a lot of these teams, like the Chargers build out these early leads because they're not playing very good teams. And then these teams can't run the football. They have to throw. Excuse the numbers. I think Baltimore will run all over them. And I think the other thing too is where, the Chargers, the Ravens, their weakness on defense is their secondary. Guess what team doesn't have a great passing offense? The Chargers, although they look decent against the Bengals.
Yep.
You have Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Josh Palmer. I wouldn't necessarily call that, an elite receiver room.
Yep.
Herbert's been solid overall, but I just think Baltimore is due for a big bounce back, and I think they're embarrassed by the Steelers' loss. They're now 2 games out of the division for the division lead. I think they come back and lay some frustration out on this Chargers team, which I think, I'm not saying they're fraudulent. They're a good team, but I do think the Chargers are not as good as people
I
make
think
them
there's
out to be.
levels. There's levels to this shit. It's like that Baltimore is like, let's not look at that. The Steelers are a really good team right now too. With the way their defense, you know what I mean? And they lose. So, and one thing I'll say too is when you think about the Ravens, it's like, okay, yeah, their defense isn't all that great. Could the Chargers go out there and do what they did to Cincinnati? Perhaps, but the Ravens' run defense is actually pretty good. So then you throw in the fact that, okay, that turns the Chargers into a one-dimensional-ish team. I think that helps the Ravens out a little bit. So even if this is kind of a slugfest offensively, I like the Ravens a lot. Even if it is one of those grinded out, somewhat defensive games, pounding the rock, I still like the Ravens.
I agree. Great pick. That would have been my pick if
all right.
I'd gone first.
Where are you going?
All right. I have one of 2 plays. This whole time I've been like, all right, which one do I want to do? I think I'm going to go...
I love when you're indecisive here. That just tells me
I like both picks. I'm going to give both picks out in my Oracle. It's a matter of which one do I want to pick here in the event we don't get another spread pick. Yeah, I'll go with this one. I'm going to go with the Broncos here on the spread, -5.5 against the Raiders. Look, I just how can you confidently bet on the Raiders right now? I really don't know. That scares me a little bit because it's like, who in their right mind would bet on the Raiders in this game? And those are the kind of ones where, like, somehow, some way the Raiders are going to cover in crazy wet fashion. But on paper, there's just no way the Broncos shouldn't win and cover this game easily. The Raiders are an absolute disaster. They're a dumpster fire, a disaster fire, whatever you want to say. This is not a good football team. You can look at any metric, any number. The Raiders defensively 29th in the NFL. 11th against the pass, 15th against the run, 32nd. They don't force any turnovers. They have, despite having Max Crosby, no pass rush whatsoever. But it's not even really about the Raiders' defense. It's more about their offense against this Broncos defense. The Raiders right now, 17th in passing yards. This is the worst rushing team in 75 rushing yards a game as a team, not one guy, as a team. They can't run the ball. They're 29th in yards per play. They're the second worst team to run the turnovers. Their offensive line is a mess. Whatever metric you want to throw their way, it's bad. And on the flip side, the Broncos' 3rd best scoring defense, 7th against the pass, 6th against the run, tied for 1st in yards per play. top 3 pass rush in the NFL. Just whatever way you want to shake it out to be, this Broncos defense is one of, if not maybe the best in the league. And Bo Nix last week, and look, the Broncos offense, we've kind of shit on them a lot this year, but Bo Nix last week went nuclear on a Falcons team that I know they haven't been great defensively, but they have playmakers. They dominated them from start to finish. That game was never close.
It really was. I mean, it was not. Yeah, that was like, what did they score? 35 or something? They
38
went
to 6 was the final score.
38.
And
Yeah, they went
if
off.
they can do that to the Falcons, who still have Kirk Cousins and Pitts and London and Bijan, all these, if they have all those guys and they only score 6 points, what is Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Myers? And yeah, they have Brock Bowers, and I get it, but he's basically all they have. What is that tandem going to do? And that's really what it comes down to: is what are they going to do here? And if you look at the Raiders, just looking at the numbers there, they're only covering this plus 5.5 mark at a 30% hit rate this year. They're 40% overall against the spread, but on this specific line of plus 5.5, a 30% hit rate. Only 3 games they've covered it. They covered it versus Baltimore, which where they won that game. They covered against the Browns. They won that game. And they covered against the Rams. They lost that game, but they lost by 5. So they did cover, but it was close. So every other game this year, including some teams, including the Broncos already, they lost to the Broncos earlier this year, 34-18. I just don't see a world where the Raiders keep this close. I really don't.
So
I know
you
they're
got it at
home this one,
5.5?
obviously traveling, but 5.5, yeah.
So yeah, I do agree with you. I don't know if I might not like the pick had the Broncos not just absolutely gone off last week. Like
Yeah.
that is, I feel like when you have those offensive, and he had the last time, I guess you could technically say, prior to that game, I think Bo Nix had a good game against one other team, but regardless, he also, one of his better games of his short career so far in the NFL, you just mentioned it, was against this Raiders team. So yeah, I think if this kid's building confidence, getting better and better, there's no reason to get to the Raider side. So I can't disagree with the Broncos. And kind of to your credit, in a sense, had you taken the Eagles spread, I don't know exactly where else I'd go with this one. So I think you were in a rock and a hard place. So I can't rag on it too much here, but I don't know if I'd love it if the Broncos didn't just show me something offensive. You know what I mean? The fact that they did, I'm like, what's going to stop them now with this Raiders team? And you even mentioned being on the road and whatnot. Well, they were on the road they're at home against Atlanta.
They were at home versus Atlanta, yeah.
Okay, well, then I was going to say too, but they have won. That was the other game I was referencing against New Orleans earlier this year, which, okay, New Orleans stinks, not a good defense. Yeah, that was in New Orleans, and they dropped 33 points. So
they're covering the spread, not the 5.5 point line, the spread in general, and an 83% hit rate on the road this year. So this is a really good coverage. Only one time this year they failed to cover the spread on the road, which when they got absolutely brutally beaten by the Ravens when they lost 41-10 in that game. That's the only time this year they haven't covered the spread on the road.
So yeah, I think I sign off on this one again, especially because they look offensive. Because this Broncos team, I didn't really believe in, but then that game that they played against Kansas City, right, and because I was coming off of that
should have won that
game
one.
against what you just said about Baltimore, that game against Kansas City, everybody was loving the Broncos, too many points, and they rose to whatever. You know what I mean? That was setting up to be a typical. Everyone loves the Broncos that week, and then Kansas City stomps them. Kansas City didn't stomp them. You know what I mean? So I give them credit, and I think I like that spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you just watch the Raiders, like the body, what am I looking?
Body language,
body language, and everything. They just look like they gave up. Like it looks like they're done. It looks like this team just packed it up. Like nobody's. Every week they're switching. They're going between Minshew and O'Connell and Minshew. They just don't know what to do. Yep. They can't run the ball. There's just no redeeming qualities with this team. So I don't see how the Broncos don't win.
Yep,
and cover.
I like
honestly.
it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our final round prior to Fade Me. Yep. You are starting us off here, so whatever we get, I cannot steal it from you.
No, you can't. Thank God.
That would be tough to do that twice in one show. But now with the board that you have lining up, you want, what did you say you wanted? A total? Is that
total? I wouldn't mind. I actually have my other spread I wanted to take. I have that still in my back pocket. The total is where I really want because the total tease has been a lock every single week. The one, I will be honest, because I got to be honest with the people. The one area where I'm not totally sold on is the touchdown player prop, because Obviously we're a little earlier in the week, so we don't have the lines officially. I mean, we could just pick a player, I guess,
Yeah.
and go with it. But that's the one area where I don't have a ton of options and on already written down. But
That's funny.
you know
So
what? We
so
work on the
I
fly sometimes.
I don't want another total or a spread. So one of us is going to be in. I don't mind plus money play, player prop, Thursday night football, touchdown score, money line. Actually, I don't necessarily really want a money line, but I feel like this is going to be interesting now because we each want what the other person doesn't want. But let's spin it.
Let's see. Let's see what the wheel gods give us. Oh,
Player prop.
player prop.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm locked and loaded, ready for that one.
I have a decision to make here
Uh-oh.
because I really really like my touchdown prop. I had one touchdown pick. My question is, do I go for it's a big plus money play? Do I go for it and sacrifice potentially the safer play?
Because touchdown scorer, that's obviously a player prop. So you
Massive.
could,
It'd be massive.
yeah,
I basically would win the week, I think, with the play that I
really.
have. But obviously a loss there. You know what? I'm pretty confident in my picks, so I'm gonna go ahead. Let me pull up the odds here. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So I'll go ahead and just say this now. We're going anytime touchdown. Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs. Anytime touchdown plus 230 on Caesars, plus 213 on Underdog, plus 100 on Prize Picks. I'm sure as the week goes along, they'll release some more odds on more books.
Mhm.
We're going here with Xavier Worthy. Look, plus 230 for a guy who's hitting this in his last 10 games. So far this year, a 50% hit rate. He had 2 in his first game. He had 1 against the Bills. He's had, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns this year already. 0.6 touchdowns per game, plus 230 odds. And it's really all about the matchup for me. The Panthers right now are 32nd in touchdowns. They're giving up 3.6 touchdowns per game versus wide receivers. They're about middle of the road. They're giving about a touchdown per game. But Xavier Worthy obviously can run it in. He can throw it. They can get a touchdown pass in. I have a feeling coming off that loss versus the Bills, the Chiefs will stomp the Panthers here. I think Kansas City, the spread I believe was like 8.5. Maybe it's a 10. I don't remember what the actual spread was. I think it's a pretty high spread. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs cover it. I think it might be 10 and a
Let's
half.
see, 10.5. Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs cover. I know they haven't been covering those big spreads this year. Carolina's awful. I mean, I don't care what way you spin it. They are not a good football team at all.
I don't think you can spin it.
You
If someone's
can't.
out there trying to spin that at this point, I think we got some problems.
You've got to be a diehard Panthers fan. Defensively, they're 32nd in scoring. They're 24th against the pass, 32nd against the run. Any Chiefs prop, honestly, might not be a bad play. But you can tell in that Bills game, they were really trying to get Xavier Worthy going. I feel like they know if they want to be successful this year in the playoffs in particular, especially coming off the Buffalo loss, they need Xavier Worthy to step up and beat because they have Hopkins and he's solid, but he's also older. I don't think he's the DeAndre Hopkins from Houston, right? And then after that, Kelsey's looking a little, I don't want to say washed, but he's definitely older. Their top 2 targets, Hopkins and Kelsey, are on the older side of things. Worthy is their best, and then you also have Juju, who's also older. Xavier Worthy is the one young guy they have in their offense where it's like he can be the X factor. He's the guy who could change a game. They traded up to take him in the first round. He can do it all. He can run. He can catch. I think Xavier Worthy is a good play. I think they need him to really get going and find his place. I think him to score a touchdown here is a good spot. Again, it's plus 230 for a reason because obviously the Chiefs have a lot of options. They could throw it to Kelsey. They could throw it to, but I think Xavier Worthy against this Panthers defense, not a bad pick to score a touchdown. I think Kansas City should score a healthy amount of points in this game as well. So I'll go with that one. If I hit it, I basically win the week off that one pick. But if I lose it, it's just one loss. So I'll take the gamble there.
Yeah, I think it's worth that. And I don't mind it at all. I think that he is very dynamic, like you said. It's not just a one-dimensional type spot. And the way they're starting to use him, like I feel like he's going to start getting as the season gets closer and closer to the end, and the Chiefs are obviously in a great position. I think that they're going to ramp him up more and more and more and more and more as they get closer to where these games really, really matter. And this is almost a perfect type of spot to test out some of those plays for him or for his speed and just mix things up because I like you said I don't see any reason why the Chiefs should be sitting there in practice this week being like, all right, we're going to struggle with this team. I wouldn't be surprised. Andy Reid, we've seen him do it before when he plays bad teams, kind of get creative and try to see what we can do because it's such a discrepancy. And I think that he is their sort of not trick play. That's not the word I'm looking for, but he is their sort of fun play guy that they can definitely mix up. So I like it for plus 230 odds. You can't beat that either. I think that's a big one.
Yeah, he's their
Um,
gadget guy. Like he's the guy who can do a little bit of
exactly,
everything.
exactly. So I'm
He's
going
and
to,
the target share is there. He's getting a 15% target share this year, 48 targets. Only Kelsey has more. Now, however, Hopkins obviously has only been there for like 2 games, 3 games? He hasn't been there very long. He already has 21 targets. So he's definitely DeAndre Hopkins is definitely getting a healthy amount of targets in this offense since he's
yep.
gotten there. But Worthy has been a consistent guy for Mahomes all year long. Again, he's the only other player not named Travis Kelsey to have more than 40 targets this year on this team. So he gets a healthy amount of touches there. And I'm just going through the numbers here. Even his rushing attempts, pretty decent amount considering he's not a running back. I mean, he's got 10 rushing attempts this year, a 3.5% share, but again, he's a wide receiver, so he's, pretty good amount of work there. And in the red zone, he is third in targets. Only Travis Kelsey and Kareem Hunt. Second in targets. Only Travis Kelsey has more red zone targets, 12.7% target share. So they target him a good amount in the red zone in general. I mean, he's a big part of this offense. So I don't see why he shouldn't. He's also fourth in red zone carries. Kareem Hunt's 1, Carson Steele 2, Pacheco's 3, and then Worthy. So again, as a wide receiver, he's cracking the top 4 in 5.4% red zone run share. So pretty impressive stuff there. A lot of ways he can score. So for plus 230, I think like we said, pretty good value there.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going a different direction. I have this two ways. I guess I can probably say both of them. I'll give you the one that I'm playing, but I can say both because I don't think we can use the other one for, well, one, it'd be fade me, and two, it kind of trumps it and double dips too much. So I like George Pickens' longest reception over 22 and a half. He has hit this in 8 of 10 games this year. In every game with Russ so far, he's hit it in 5 straight games, and averaging, I think, averaging in his last 5 games here, 37.8 in terms of his longest reception per game. 31, 44, 43, 34, 37. This is a Cleveland team that we've seen. New Orleans last week, Valdez-Scantling had one for 71. We saw the week before Johnson, your guy, Quentin Johnson there, or what is it? Yeah, Quentin Johnson, right? There's a T in there that I can't pronounce.
Yep.
He had one that was a deep one, 66 yards. And then we saw 2 guys go over this one, Zay Flowers and Likely, 3 weeks back against Cleveland. I think this is a good spot. You also have George Pickens in terms of average depth of target. He's sitting right around 13 yards, meaning the ball's traveling 13 yards before he even gets it. Never mind him running with it after the catch and whatnot, which would count. And of wide receivers this year that have 40 plus receptions, him and Terry McLaurin, the only 2 guys there with a 13 plus average depth target. So he is one of those deep guys. And I think Russell Wilson there, one thing that I've noticed now just watching that kind of new look Steelers offense, Russell Wilson is, well, one, he's always been a good deep ball thrower. We know that. But he's giving the young receiver in Pickens these chance balls, which we don't see too often. And that is how you reel in one of these long ones or something like that, because very rarely is a guy going to truly, unless you're Randy Moss or Calvin Johnson, are you going to get this like 6-yard separation when you're going on a deep ball? You know what I mean? It's just a sprinting race. But you throw up a 50-50 ball, George Pickens has been a dog catching those this year. So I like his spot here over 22 and a half. Right now, that's minus 115, 22 and a half for his longest reception. I also like his receiving yards for anyone watching. That's the one. That's the second one that I was talking about. But I think he could just roll one off here for a deep one.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I typically the longest reception props are always tough for me because it's like you're really, sometimes it just comes down to luck with some of these things.
Yep.
My big thing I would be cautious about this game in general concerns me a little bit because I think the Steelers are 3.5. Obviously, with everything we've seen from both these teams, you'd think to yourself, why the hell is this not bigger? I think Cleveland could be a scary bet Cleveland spot here. The Browns actually, defensively, they're 16th in passing yards allowed, which isn't great, but they're middle of the road. This is a good pass rush. Russell Wilson, 2 big wins in a row, but he's starting. If you watch closely, the Denver Russ is coming back. Like the first few games, like, all right, he's throwing the ball deep. He's looking good. He's looking good. A lot of good stuff. The last 2 games, he's reverted back to the dink and dunk Denver Broncos Russ, where he's throwing 4 or 5 yards a time. I mean, again, despite of that, he still cashed this over with Pickens the last 2 weeks. So it's hard for me to really poke a hole in it. There's something fishy about this game. I'm calling it now. Like this game scares me a lot. I feel like this could be a bad Russell Wilson game loading up here against the Browns.
It is.
But
It is. It seems like a trap. It's so weird. The
yeah,
fact that you
well,
have
the
the
data is
fact that
good
you
for
have
that number.
the fact that you have the Eagles, true. That the fact that you have the Eagles and the who are they playing? I already picked them. I can't even remember now. The Eagles taking on
Oh
Jesus.
boy, oh boy,
I
the
got
Rams, the
the
Rams.
Rams. Okay, and then the
That's not a good
Ravens
sign,
taking on.
folks.
It's a terrible sign. The Ravens taking on the Chargers, Eagles taking on the Rams in very similar numbers, whereas you have the Steelers taking on the Browns at a very similar number. Really, really weird. But what I will say, and you kind of even touched on it, you're like these plays seem like luck with the longest receptions and whatnot. That's the thing with this George Pickens spot. I think that he gets more volume, more quantity in those
Yeah.
types of opportunities than a lot of guys in the league. So that's kind of why I like it. But like I mentioned, I don't think that his receiving yards would be viable anymore for Uri to take because it just double dips too much. I don't mind that either. If someone's watching this and likes the spot, but it's kind of like longest yards fluky, kind of like you think.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing. Longest yards is it's so tough because you can get like a what line did you get it out again?
22 and a half.
22 and a half. I mean, it's realistically doesn't sound that crazy, but imagine it's so easy for him to get like 19 or 20. You know what I mean? Like
You
getting
could have
19 or
10,
20
19 yard
yards.
catches. 10,
You could have
19
have
catches.
105 yards receiving and not cross that line, which
Exactly.
would be
I
crazy.
know.
The
I
one
know.
thing with Pickens though is the fact that he is so good and so athletic that even if you get a guy on him, he can spin off and go for more. So I can't hate on it too much, genuinely. I mean, the data is there. He's the type of player who you want to bet in that situation, but there's something about that game, and I think overall just the longest reception prop. But I think you've had a lot of success hitting those on this year. So
I've rolled with a few of them with longest reception and also in just my videos like longest rush and whatnot, because at the same way you look at it, and obviously we're talking about things that can happen or things that can't anyways, but the way you look at it is that he could also have, you said he could have 100 and whatever yards receiving and not cash it. He could also be shut down for most of the game, have
I have
one
one
catch
big
for
catch.
25 yards.
Yeah.
So it does work both ways, not maybe so much in that way, but yeah, I really don't mind this spot. But yeah, I like yours too. Like that is going to be a big watch now because you might be able to secure the whole week with that cash if I have even like one
It's
loss.
huge.
I think yeah. So all right, we ready to jump into Fade Me now?
I am. I have a pick that I'm really excited about.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, guys, we're going to spin a wheel. This is the Fade Me round. It's going to land on one of us, just like we started the show with. The difference is now, if you are new, whoever this lands on gets to make a pick out of anything. Don't have to follow any category or anything like that. The other person has to take the exact opposite, so fade them, of that play. So, sounds like Tasos, you want Fade Me.
I do.
I
do.
I wouldn't mind it, but I don't think, like, I feel really good about my board right now. I don't know if I have anything that's like I'm keeping in the holster. You know what I mean? So let's see what we got here with this spin.
The question is, I have a couple good picks here for Fade Me.
Uh-oh.
Oh, slow.
It's gonna sit. It's gonna sit. Little backspin on that puppy.
Yes.
All right, Tasos with Fade Me. You got your wish, which never seems to be the best situation.
No,
for me.
No, not for you. Not for you. That's for sure. Here's the problem, though. Another pick just popped in my head, and I'm like, ooh, that's spicy. No, I'm gonna stick. I'm not gonna get cutesy here. I'm gonna stick with what I like. This is my spread pick. This was the other spread pick I was debating. I got lucky and got to. This is the same thing that happened last week. The same scenario. I liked the Rams, and I got them at the end. The same thing's gonna happen here. Give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 5.5. So you get the Giants at plus 5.5.
Yep.
The Buccaneers, they keep losing, but my God, have they been incredible, despite the fact they've had so many injuries and whatnot. They are coming off a bye week now, so they get an extra week of rest to prepare for this Giants game. You look at their last couple games, all of them losses, but all of them. So, what a gauntlet, by the way. They had
Seriously.
Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, Niners all in a row. Despite losing all their wide receivers, they lost by 3 to the Niners. They lost by 6 to the Chiefs in overtime. They lost by 5 to the Falcons. And they lost by 10 to the Ravens, but that game was a lot closer than I think the scoreboard indicates. This is still a good team. They have a lot of fight. Baker Mayfield, say what you want, he motivates this team. They've rallied around him. But
they have the hardest schedule so far this season. Not even, I know you just rattled off the last 4 weeks prior to their bye. Like if you look at the rest of their schedule, it's crazy.
they played
And
Washington, they played Detroit, they played Denver, Philadelphia. I mean, the
their
only easy
their
game, quote unquote,
opponents,
they've had
Tasos,
is
their
New Orleans.
opponents have nearly a 65% record in terms of if you combine all of their opponents' records, 65% win rate. So I'm
It's
with you
crazy.
on that point for sure.
It's crazy. And they've been competitive in all these games. Like the Falcons game, they lost both Falcons games by 1 score. You know, they beat the Lions. The only Lions loss this year was to Tampa Bay.
Yep.
You know, they beat Washington. So they have pretty impressive wins also. But they get Mike Evans back. He's supposed to come back, which is a big boost for them. They've been playing solid without him. Now you get Mike Evans back potentially. So a big boost there. You know, the Bucs, they've been playing super competitive, but the key thing for me, also, by the way, the insights provided by Outlier, I do have to mention, the Buccaneers are 10-3, 76.9% hit rate against the spread in their last 13 games on the road. This is a team that travels very, very well. I do have to mention that.
Okay,
Actually, I want to look
okay.
at what just this year. They are a 75% hit rate on the road just this year. So, really good road team. The Giants. This is why I like the pick more than the Bucs, because the Bucs, again, I just kind of gave them their flowers. The Giants have officially benched Daniel Jones. It's the end of the Daniel Jones era. It's come to an end. This team is officially packing up shop and closing for the season. And to make matters better for me in the situation, Tommy DeVito, not Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito is getting the start. Now, look, it was a fun story last year. I was actually at the Patriots-Giants game, which I think was his second start, if I'm not mistaken. When they play the Sopranos theme in MetLife, and he comes out with it's incredible. It's a fun thing. He has his agent dressing up like a 1920s gangster. It's all fun and games, but let's be realistic here. And I think Giants fans, if they're real football fans, they will agree with you. He actually wasn't good last year. Like Tommy DeVito was not good. They could not move the football.
He was a little flash in the pan of like a character that it's kind of like cool to rally around, but that fizzled out so fast.
He had nothing. Like if you actually watch back those games, look at the numbers. They won because the defense played well and Saquon was playing well. Tommy DeVito himself could not throw the ball downfield. Like he has no arm. He's not all that accurate. It looks ugly coming out of his hands. He's not a good quarterback. Why they didn't start Drew Lock, I really don't know, because I think Drew Lock probably would maybe put them a chance to win. The only thing I can think of is, truthfully, they don't want to win. Like they just want to pack it up, lose as many games as they can. I think Daboll's in trouble. I just think this team is done. I think they've all kind of packed up and they're ready to go for the year. They're ready for vacation. They're ready for the season to be done. And I think the Buccaneers are the opposite. Tampa Bay still has a shot not only to make the playoffs but to win the division, because Atlanta, they're falling apart. They got trounced by the Broncos. They're falling apart. The Saints they've won a couple games, but they're still wishy-washy. Tampa could still realistically win the division and or make a wild card spot, because they do have a couple tie-breaking wins. That Washington win early in the year now looks so much more important. So Tampa not dead yet, and I think this game obviously means so much more to them than it does the Giants. They have the bye week, extra week to prepare. Mike Evans is back. The Giants have DeVito starting. Everything to me screams Buccaneers. This line's going to jump. I think this could be probably -7 by Sunday. But if you get it -5.5, it's a great line. So I love the Buccaneers here.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled to be looking at the Giants, even just to kind of, I was going to make the playoff point, because Atlanta's obviously, like you mentioned, starting to struggle I guess you could say to some degree, right? The Tampa Bay Bucks here have such a good situation at hand, especially if they start to get a little bit more healthy. They have the Giants, then they have the Panthers, and then they have the Raiders. You can't tell me that in that locker room, in those offices, they're not saying, if we can rattle off, if we can go 3-0 in these next 3 weeks, we're going to be in a substantially better place than we are in right now. I don't know what the Falcons' upcoming weeks are, but either way, like if you can sit in those meetings and in the practices and whatnot, and just think about the fact that they're saying, hey, if we win this one, we win the next one, we win the next one, we could be winning our division. And it's like the opposite of a gauntlet. So I think it starts here, and it's almost like they pissed away an opportunity if they don't crush the Giants here. So I hate to like your side of it, because I have to take the Giants side, but I would never consider looking at the Giants in this spot.
Well, not even the division side of it, but also the wild card side. Because like you said, they should go 3-0 the next 3 games. If they're sitting at 7-6, we've already talked about it multiple times in this video. The NFC West, all those the Niners are 5-5. I believe Seattle's. What are the? Let me look up the standings real quick.
5-5 Rams, 5-5 Seattle, 5-5 Niners, 6-4 Cardinals.
They're a game or two back of every one of those teams. And again, they could leapfrog in the next 3 weeks. They could leap over at least 2 or 3 of those teams. Not to mention the NFC North, maybe Green Bay or Minnesota. They fall down a little bit. Like they're not dead. It's a long shot for sure. At 4-6 is going to be really tough, but the schedule gets lighter. And they have a good team. So there's a lot left to play for Tampa Bay here. And the Giants, like I said, they have nothing to play for except for a draft pick. So love the Bucs here.
Yeah, I can't disagree. And also the Falcons have the Chargers and the Vikings in their next 2 games, which also could be something that's making the Bucs focus on this one even more. Like, hey, they have 2 tough ones. They might split that. If we go 3-0, we kind of leapfrog not only them potentially, but like you mentioned, even looking around for the wild card. So yeah, you've stuck me with some absolute stinkers. I've had to root for the Patriots. I've had to root for the Giants. I think there's been another god awful team in there at one point too. So you're maniacal, going as like a menace around here with these fade me plays. But you know what? Anything can happen. That's why we run the fade me round. Like 5.5 points is still 5.5 points. 5.5 points is still 5.5 points.
Yeah, but it makes it so much fun because now it's like, imagine I just imagine you sitting at home and having to watch the Giants and root for Tommy DeVito when he's doing this after he throws an interception. Interception number 3 of the day. He's doing this. And it's like
2, 3.
It's like I would lose my mind rooting for. I would honestly probably just not even watch the game. Honestly, be like, you know what? I don't want to know what happens. Just let me know the result afterwards, because watching the Giants and having to root for them, I feel bad for Giants fans. I don't know how you guys do it, except I don't feel bad because you guys stole a couple Super Bowls from us. So
yeah, seriously. But yeah, that is episode week number 12 of H2H. It's episode 12 now. We're back on
13 because we had the preseason video.
Oh, we had the bye week.
Oh, true, bye week. Yep,
we're back.
Now we're all synced up.
There we go. That should be something we do years moving forward too. But you got anything to leave the people with before we do jump out of this one?
Just let's keep it going. Let's keep the vibes rolling. And you know what, Ev? I feel like, let's see, do I have it loaded up for you? I do have it loaded up for you. I just because of last week, and we're just gonna keep the vibes positive here. We'll just go ahead and cock that back and just money gun. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll see how we tune out. It turns out, but hey. What can I say? You are doing well. I feel like as long as I just do me and you do better, I can't be pissed about it. So that is where we're at as of right now. But all right, catch everyone else in the next one.